our first speaker this morning, I have the privilege of introducing him to you. Now, in your program, you can see his bio, and all those things are great. We know that he serves as Governor DeSantis' liaison for faith and community. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But beyond that, I got the chance to hear Erik once before, and I spoke with him today about some really cool things. One of the things that I want to share with you that I think is pretty amazing is that he traveled with his family, 7 people in a trailer, to 48 states. Can y'all imagine the kind of family bonding that takes place, all the arguments that took place? Get off of me, he looking at me.
7, yeah. Calm down, kids.
Calm down. Don't make me come back there. I mean, just really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty amazing. And something else that I think is pretty sweet. Any of you ever seen where a prom was hosted for children with special needs? Well, he is actually the one who founded the Night to Shine prom event. So this is so exciting, and I've heard this guy speak, and he's just an energy ball of fire. And so, ladies and gentlemen, will you help me today welcome to the stage Mr. Erik Dellenback.
Well, good morning. Nothing brings the excitement to a room like an early morning government speaker. You guys clapping, all of a sudden like government. So I'm super excited to be first on session 2, day 2. In all seriousness, very, very honored to be here. CarePortal is not something I get to talk about. It's something I get to love. It's something I get to breathe. My family is fully invested in CarePortal. We love the product of CarePortal, and we love the outcome of CarePortal, so it is clearly an honor to be here. This will be a weird one because you don't want to confess this. I know there's going to be some people nervous, but who in here is government? Not a hand. One, me. Yeah, so that, you know, if you got a problem with me, you got a problem with 3 of us, so that's that'll be good. Listen, I want to tell you that I'm going to share a little bit about the Florida story, but I don't want to get hung up on the Florida story. Like, I want you to be encouraged by it, but I also want to challenge some other states in the room. Again, how awesome is it that you're in a room where anything to do with faith is across 38 states? I mean, that's amazing. That is honestly a national perspective. If you don't know this already, there's only 15 states in the country that have an emphasis on faith and community like Florida does. 15. Most of you hopefully know there's 50. And so that's 35 states that don't, right? But there's 38 states that have CarePortal. Guys, can you feel that when Joe talks about maybe children are being used to change the church, what if children are being used to change government? And what if the church is being used to change government? I just want to get your mind there as we start to talk today, because as we hear the Florida story, there's some ground rules I'd like to put forward. One, anytime you talk history, I love that Adrian shared the history. Most of the time, if you get far enough upstream in history, you realize there's a couple things that are true. One, the people that God calls to do it are traditionally unqualified. Sorry, Adrian, but him and I would be in that category of people that God just uses, or Joe, and we don't necessarily know what we're doing, but we try to be obedient. And honestly, the most true part is that when we look at history, it literally ultimately kind of tells, not trying to be cute, but his story. A God-sized story of something that started as like, maybe. I've said often there's a fine line between ignorance, stupidity, and bravery. And so I get credit in Florida now because some things worked. But I would tell you in the early days, we had no idea what we were doing, which should be encouraging. The second thing is that I represent a lot of people. I get to stand up here today and talk on behalf of Florida. But now I know these people will be more proud. Where's Florida? Yeah. Way more proud than the government people. And this is it, right? If you ever misunderstand and think that I'm up here representing some grand thing, or that we have a solution, or that government's some kind of answer, that is completely false. And on top of that, you can never dismiss the ecosystem that made Florida successful. Credit to God, credit to an ecosystem. So those are some ground rules out of the gate. In this room, I believe there's 2 types of people, and I'm going to challenge one and encourage the other. There's one group of people and these people would be less vocal about this, that would say, we don't necessarily need government. Okay, and I'd say, okay, we're going to talk through that for a second. But the church is God's giant created infrastructure. We're going to be fine. We know where the kids are. We're going to be fine. We don't necessarily need them. And plus, think of all the things we think about government. Good old Ronald Reagan gave us the quote of when government walks in the room and asks for, it says they're here to help, right? Everyone knows that quote. And I think that seeds in people. The second group of people would be people that want government involvement. And I've talked to these people a lot, but I have no idea how to do it. There's like, my state is blank. My state is small. My state is big. My state is red. My state is blue. I'm going to tell you today, none of that matters. We'll talk about that in just a second. So let's just go first to the one that I want to challenge, the one that says we don't need government. I'll give you a couple of things to think about. One, I've been quoted over the past 6 years, more than anything I've been asked has been about the separation of church and state. Okay, so I like to just hit it out of the gate. The separation of church and state, written by Thomas Jefferson in a letter to the Danbury Baptist Church, what he was saying there is imperative for our country. It is to say that government stay out of the business of the church, and that government not form a national church. I don't think there's anyone here, I think we could all agree there, no problem. The problem is the misdefinition of that phrase has caused a relationship break between church and government. But here's the problem that I want to get your brain around, is that that good government every day wakes up and cares about the same vulnerable people the church does? I don't know how often that crosses your mind. Now, do they do it the same way? No, of course not. Do they do it as well and effectively? No, not necessarily. But we wake up each and every day. And so I just want to say to you that if you're the person that says that, one, don't buy into that lie. Another lie that you should not buy into is because we have differences, we should do nothing. I am so tired of that one. We don't agree on this or that. When I started Night to Shine with Tebow, one of the things we would always talk about, we have 38 denominations working on Night to Shine when I left. 500 churches, 30-something countries. And people say, I don't understand how you get denominations to get along. I was like, well, the truth is we only talk about two things, loving God and loving vulnerable people, in this case, people with special needs. And yeah, thank you, Danielle, my one clapper over there. That's my state director, way to go. So she's got me. But can I tell you that so many times we're going too deep in the conversation? Like we're going too deep, and we need to understand that we wake up wanting to serve the same vulnerable people. If you look at the role of government, so the role of government versus church, government wakes up and we serve from the moment crisis begins to the moment crisis ends. If you've never heard that, that should change things in your head. Meaning that government by nature is limited in what we can do. You know what's not limited? Faith. Faith is prevention, love and compassion during, and community and reunification after. Government's the one in bounds, right? Now, good government might be able to say, and I think what we've done well in Florida is we fundamentally do three things. Government gives away money or has money. Government does policy. And government has information. And I think that's the part where CarePortal and government have to be conversating. Because we know where each of our 23,332 foster children are. We know their story. And we know that in government. And so where we can help share, we're starting to see trends upstream, and CarePortal can step in, real change can happen. I would go so far as to say, I don't think that government or the church in serving foster care kids can be fully effective and efficient without the other. Now, for those of you who are on this side that said, I'm not sure if we need government, I know that might tweak your brain a little bit. Like, well, I know government needs the church. No one really argues that. But I'm just telling you, I would ask you to say, what examples do we have as we think about, never mind, that slide's gone, Caring Reimagined. Who reimagined things more than the Lord? And if he can say that a bunch of misfit disciples, representing some of them government, I might add, can be together and change the world, then why would we have a limited vision of who God can use in this system? And so I just want to challenge you that if God can do it then, we must have faith big enough that he can do it again. And he can use government. So please, for the people in the room that say, I don't know that we need government, even if you're doing it for them. Do you know how fun it is right now in Florida to say, and I'll share these results in just a few minutes, but to say what's happened in Florida, and government have to say, when they're asked, how did it happen? The church did it. You know, like, how awesome is that, right? Like, it's no problem for me. I'm ready to yell it. And so I want to encourage you, please do not limit your vision of what can be done in government. Some of you are going to say to me, well, we don't have a Ron DeSantis. Some like him, some hate him, don't care. In this room, it doesn't matter. Some of you are going to say, I don't have him, so I can't do what you did. I don't have a governor's faith in community liaison. And I'm just going to simply say to you, but you still have God. So if you think something's impossible, I'd be like, okay, great. You make a great biblical character. And just challenge and push the edges on that. For those of you who are on the other side, which is where I want to spend some time today, and say, I want to do it. I want the engagement of government, my city government, my county government, my state government. I want that. I want to encourage you with a few things. Number one, start by just doing something. Stop strategizing. Stop whiteboarding. Just start to have discussions. Let God do some work. I think there's so many of us that get caught in paralysis by analysis, trying to figure out what we're going to think or what they're going to think. And by the way, government and faith speak two different languages. It is truly almost a bilingual culture. As one example, and the most notable example would be if you walk into the Department of Children and Families in the state of Florida and you say orphan, that is a taboo word, okay? Irony is James 1:27, where all of a sudden our scripture boils down that there are really two populations that he's like, hey, here's a Cliff Notes version of who you need to serve, says a word that isn't even spoken in government. So there is a bilingual nature. I don't want to diminish that, but at the same point in time, I think so many people are stopped by never starting. And in Florida, our story is a start, pray, learn, fail, succeed, make mistakes, learn again, keep going. There's nobody here in Florida that would say, man, it was just so easy. And there was no problems. Man, we were clunky in the beginning. We were clunky. And so we remind you of that because we never want something that succeeds to be the end point that you miss the humble beginnings. And by the way, don't miss how awesome humble beginnings are, because you'll get to talk about them someday, and it will point back to a God of the impossible. So as you believe it's possible, as you believe and put your efforts forward, let me tell you the formula we used. I don't know if it's right. Just tell you what we did. The first thing that we had to do in the state of Florida was form a governor's faith and community initiative. Now you say, well, what is a governor's faith and community initiative? I didn't know. I was asked to start it, so I was like, well, we'll see what it's going to be. But you know what we did? And some of you have heard me say this. The very first thing we did was send out 40,000 thank you notes from the governor and I to every faith institution we could identify and a bunch of nonprofits. And we just simply said, we don't even know how you're serving, but thank you. If you'll tell us who you serve, we will gladly connect you with the highest level of government for that particular vulnerable population. A thank you note. Again, that's where I get concerned about the paralysis by analysis, is that we didn't know. Now, I will tell you where God blessed that, is that thank you note went out 2 weeks before COVID started. And so, interestingly enough, and I'll forever praise the boldness of our governor that he kept, I was in a state where churches were deemed essential and kept open. And that made a big deal. That was a big deal. But I will also tell you that 5,000 people responded to that letter. For those of you who are in marketing, you can't get that on an email, let alone a snail mail coming in and having 5,000 people open a letter, go to a computer, type something in. You know, that's no way in the marketing world. 5,000 people. Well, what did we find? I had 27 vulnerable population groups, and I said, which ones of these do you serve? You would imagine, and be correct, by the way, that the top served ones were homelessness, elder, feeding, okay? I don't think that would shock anybody that the church, in the response, and I get this chart's pretty memorized for me, it was like 30% plus were serving in those three areas. Second from the bottom of 27 was adoption. 4 up from that was foster care. So bottom dwellers, foster care and adoption, of who the church is serving in Florida. Uh-oh. What's the disconnect? What's the disconnect? We started asking questions. So in Florida, our stats are we have 20,000 faith institutions. About 17,000 of those are Christian churches. We have 110,000 nonprofits. In our state, 16.9 million people, 70% of our population, we're growing. There's a few people moving there. We were growing at 1,100 people a day, by the way. But 23 million people in Florida, and 70% say they're Christian. 3% say they're Jewish. 3% say they are all other faith combined, and 24% say no faith. That's our stats. I'm going to tell you that if you're in a state right now, you should know those stats for your state. They're all available. Pew Research has done it all. You should know that. Why should you know that? Because I would tell you that most of you are going to be surprised, but the people of faith will be the largest people group in the state. Period. Okay, well, why am I telling you that? Well, because government should be listening to the largest people group in the state. There should be, because this, again, if I could dream, we would identify that before we identified as red and blue. okay? But either way, it is the largest people group, and there should be some conversation. Not only that, if the churches of your state ever decided to pull out of child welfare or pull out of serving the most vulnerable, government in your state would implode that day. The taxpayer savings, which I'm not trying to make it about money, but the taxpayer savings alone that Faith and Community put in should make governments pay attention. So all of a sudden, we've got a problem, which is we're being told every Sunday that the orphan matters, and we're being shown on paper there's no entry point to how they're serving those kids. And so we spent essentially the next 5 years but trying to figure out the answer to that question. You ever notice that it's easier to ask someone for something if you've already done something for someone? Government has stood in the posture for a long time of always asking the church to do something, and most of the time that ask of foster care was raise up foster and adopted parents. We went the other way. We created what we call Florida's Faith and Community Red Phone. It's a red phone that goes directly into the executive office of the governor to answer the questions of our faith and community leaders. Anything you need, call us, we'll answer it for you. We don't ship them off, we don't send them off, we just want them to know they have a voice, they're heard, and if we can answer the question, well, why would we do that? How can government do that? Because, again, I go back to the faster they get back to serving vulnerable people, those vulnerable people don't end up in the state system of care, and if you've never heard it, the best way to help someone that's heading towards a system of care is not let them in the system of care. Right? Like if we can avoid the most traumatic moment by helping upstream, we're going to do that every time. We did something called Women of Faith. We brought in the top pastors' wives of our state and brought them into the mansion, governor's mansion, and sat down with the first lady and just shared about what was happening. We did sessions with the secretary. If you told me you served, whatever you told me you served, domestic violence, whatever, we put you with the secretary of that agency. Again, guys, if you're like, this doesn't feel complex, it's not. I'm not even trying to be funny. I don't feel like I'm super smart. I feel like I try to be obedient. I feel like God, and this is my anthem of life, which I know many of you in this room will have, I believe God has shown me things that I cannot unsee, or I've seen things I cannot unsee. By the way, I would guess in this room we could just do story after story of how that happened to you and it changed the trajectory of your life. And so we just did simple things trying to show trust and relationship and a baseline of understanding. And in time, what we realized was a bunch of churches were saying to us, the reason we don't serve is because there's no easy way to do it. Because asking them to step up with foster and adopted parents is super difficult. And so there entered, back in 2019, little old CarePortal. I think we were the 29th state, last I knew. And we all of a sudden gave them a way to see things they could not unsee. You see, I started realizing it's not only my anthem, that's really what a pastor's anthem is. His role is to stand up here and help people here see things they can't unsee. And so CarePortal became this beautiful model of us being able to, many of you know we're used as a research and development lab, I think, in Florida. And so sitting here today, we have needs being entered from child welfare and Agency for People with Disability and Department of Juvenile Justice and the Department of Veteran Affairs and Elder Affairs. And so literally, as pastors would say, from cradle to grave, our churches in our state are seeing the need, entered by the people standing on the front line seeing the need, and the process goes on, and connection changes everything. You know, your state doesn't have a resource problem. I promise, even the ones that you think might. You have a connectivity problem. And this is where CarePortal stands in that gap. So there's 3 things I tell every state. 1, know your state. Know your stats. What's your faith and community population look like? 2, use Florida's precedents. We've got, for geeky government people in the room, because we've procured CarePortal, you can very easily. States get help to help each other like that. We also have written legislation for a faith and community office. Here's what's happened, the results. 67 counties, every single county in the state of Florida has a church serving in CarePortal, and most of them have many. 1,000 churches, we just crossed 1,000 churches serving in the state of Florida, 30,000 children served. Recently, because I'm competitive and my Oklahoma friends are here, Oklahoma, the truth is they've just led for far too long. And so we just had 1,005 needs met in 1 month in yeah. But there's nothing more encouraging than the fact that when I started, we had 23,332 kids. 332, never estimate. Today, we have to estimate a little bit because it's moving all the time, 15,227. 8,105 kids reduced. That's information your state should hear. 34% reduction in foster care. Four others gave me some numbers to kind of know where we're at on funding. That's about $248 million of savings per year to the state of Florida. Guys, I'm telling you, the formula's there. I'm going to spend the next couple years, I'm actually leaving Florida soon. This is one of my last speeches, but I'm going to go tell 50 other states how to do governor's faith and community initiatives. That's my passion. And so I'll give you what I can in air cover, and we're going to try to do some fun things with that. But guys, just please start. Please believe it's possible. The final thing I'll say is that, the team doesn't stop with government and church and kids. This God portion. And I heard a story a long time ago. Some of you may have heard the Chicago Bulls are playing the Portland Trailblazers back in the day, and Michael Jordan's on the team, which again, arguably, it's not, anyone who wants to argue if he's the GOAT, that's a separate discussion out back. But he's playing, and he scores the most points he's ever scored that night at 69 points against the Trailblazers. It's a playoff contention game. Another guy on the court is named Stacey King. Stacey King misses 2 shots, goes to the free throw line, misses the first free throw, makes the second free throw. The Bulls go on to win. The reporters are running all over the court, and they can't get to Jordan, which was pretty common. So they get to Stacey King, and he's got his point, and Michael Jordan has his career high, 69 points. They said, what did you even feel being out there to experience what just happened tonight? And he said, tonight is the night I'll never forget when Michael Jordan and I combined for 70 points, right? The lesson of Stacey's humor, which I appreciate immensely, by the way. Don't forget that God's on our team. He needs our 1 point. He's got the rest. Let me bless us. God, thank you so much for this time together. God, I pray for boldness and courage in this room, Lord. I pray that there be just a sense of just eyes on you focus. Let them run forward. If you want to use government, use it. When you want to use your church, use it. And may much be made of you, and may much glory be brought to your church. In Jesus' name, amen.
Wow.
Nathan, our guy. Woo!
Come on, y'all give it up again for Erik.
Dellenback.
Wow.